Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. It's one of the weirdest words in the English language. This same word means two exactly opposite things. The word is cleave, and it can mean to cut something in two and separate the pieces, or to cling tightly to something. We use a cleaver on a piece of meat, for example, to cut it in pieces. Or we might cleave to someone we love in the hopes to stay with them always. I'm commenting on all this because our hymn today uses a form of that word, cleft. More on that in a moment. This week we're looking at some of the much loved standards in our hymnal that interestingly you can find between the numbers 6 and 700. The hymn today is ELW 623, Rock of Ages, Cleft for Me. That reference to cleave happens right away in that very first line of that first verse. We may talk about a cleft in a rock, or a place where a rock or mountain has been split in two. But here the hymn is talking about Jesus suffering and dying for us. Jesus is our Rock of Ages, who was cleft or wounded for us. The first verse goes, Rock of Ages, cleft for me. Let me hide myself in thee. Let the waters and the blood from thy riven side which flowed be of sin the double cure. Cleanse me from its guilt and power. And yet, like a cleft in the rock can provide shelter and safety, so the riven Jesus provides us hope and assurance as well. We can hide from the terrors of the world in him. The verse goes on to talk about the wounds of Jesus as the very cure of sin and guilt and the power of sin over us. Verse 2 expresses one of the major thoughts of Lutheran theology. Not the labors of my hands can fulfill thy law's demands. Could my zeal no respite know? Could my tears forever flow? All for sin could not atone. Thou must save, and thou alone. There's nothing we can do to save ourselves. No matter our effort, no matter our sorrow at our failure, thou must save, and thou alone. By the way, this is a good chance to talk about the word atone in that verse. If you look at the word, it spells out what it is about. In God's mercy and grace, we are at one with God. With verse 3, we turn to the other meaning of cleave or cleft, and now we are clinging to Jesus. Nothing in my hand I bring, simply to thy cross I cling. Naked come to thee for dress, helpless look to thee for grace. Foul I to the fountain fly. Wash me, Savior, or I die. And again, the sense is that we are worthless sinners who can do nothing for ourselves and who are in need of God's grace and love. The hymn describes us in very unflattering ways, naked, helpless, foul. And yet Jesus washes us and makes us clean. No wonder we cleave to him. In the fourth verse, the theme of clinging to Christ as our only source of help and hope continues. While I draw this fleeting breath, when mine eyelids close in death, when I soar to worlds unknown, see thee on thy judgment throne. Rock of Ages, cleft for me, let me hide myself in thee. And perhaps here the theme of Jesus as our rock comes back around. Christ is the unshakable rock we cling to no matter what. And the image brings to mind Jesus' parable about the house built on the rock and the house built on sand. On Christ, the solid rock I stand, we sing in another hymn. All other ground is sinking sand. But this rock surrounds us like a fortress, and we are safe with Christ. I guess in the end it comes down to this. May we cleave to the cleft Savior who provides a cleft of safety for us. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.